Hello everybody, John here, and today onto the garage. We're back to doing a few quick secrets of the XK8, and we're going to go inside the car to look at instruments. Let's just take a quick look at the instruments and dashboard in Purdy, my 1996 XK8 Sport. And today I'm just going to do a couple of real quick ones to get us back into the secrets mode that are related to the instruments themselves and the apertures in which they live. We've often talked about the fact that this is obviously one of the most beautiful cars ever made. It's also got potentially one of the best dashboards ever made. Elegant, simple, yet laced with evocative of old British car touches, plus the Spitfire wing effect, all those sorts of great things. So from an artistic point of view, it is absolutely a tour de force. And you don't really see too much to match it in modern cars this side of maybe a Bentley. However, what we've not talked about too much is the design, as in the product design of this dashboard too much. And I just want to give you a couple of tiny little secrets to the XK8 that will maybe start you thinking about just how beautifully and carefully this thing was designed. First thing is we have the 3-instrument binnacle in front of the driver. And beautiful 3 round apertures, centre holding the speedo, the left hand one holding the rev counter or tachometer, and the right hand one has a sort of dual instrument which has the temperature gauge and fuel gauge housed within it. And these 3 apertures are mounted in an asymmetric shaped piece of wood. Obviously different depending on which hand drive your vehicle is. But one of the things that's kind of lost on most people, and for good reason, we're talking fine details here, is for no other reason than to make it look right rather than be right. And I love this sort of thing. The centre instrument is 5 millimeters larger than the others. And that's because of optical illusions and effects. When you put curved lines against circles, the middle one would look smaller. So to counteract this, this aperture and the instrument behind it is 5 millimeters larger than this aperture and this instrument. And that's purely so that they look even. To be fair, I am using a wide angle lens on a action camera here, so it's not the easiest thing to share, but go and look at your own car. At a glance, they all look the same size, and that's intent, but that's achieved by having this center one 5 millimeters larger than the others. I love that. That's real attention to detail. The next one, and again, I apologise for having a relatively wide angle lens, so there's a degree of distortion that is inevitable with these photographs. The instruments are quite plain and simple. They're round instruments in round holes. Makes absolute sense. However, again, in order to make things look right rather than be right, if I position you guys to look at the left-hand instrument, the RPM or rev counter or tachometer, square on, parallel to the dashboard, and with the instrument dead center of picture, you may notice a little anomaly here. And that anomaly is the center of the instrument is actually 15 millimeters to the left of the center of the aperture by intent. And this is about it looking like it's in the middle when your head is over here, closer to the speedo. Again, I can't easily demonstrate it with a wide angle lens because I can't make it see the way my eyes see. But when you sit with your head in the car at the right position, all of the instruments appear to be centered in their apertures. In actual fact, the tachometer is offset by a large amount, 15 millimeters, so over half an inch to the left of its aperture. And viewed straight on, you can't even see the numbers 1 and 0 because they're obscured by the wood. Next, I want to talk to you about the anti-glare aspects of the design on this dashboard. Again, I'm shining a light directly at it because I'm using a camera. But in natural daylight, this car really doesn't suffer in terms of reflection from the instruments. Now, in part, that's due to the instruments being deeply recessed. So they're in these tubes, if you like, set away back. There's the overhang of the dashboard. So they're shaded, and that cuts down on a lot of reflections. But this is not unique in cars, but it really just amuses me every time I find it. The glass, or perspex actually, that is in front of these instruments is not flat. It's curved, it's concave, and it's set at about 30 degrees to the instrument, i.e. if the bottom of the instrument's here and the top of the instrument's here, the glass comes back towards you at the top quite heavily. And when you reach in, it's so effective, you don't see the reflections. You reach in expecting to reach a long way back to touch the dial, and you do, and it's a long way in to touch there. But you try it at the top. Oh, the glass is right here, just behind the wood. And it's so effective that, and again, unless you're shining a bright light like I am, you don't see a reflection, you don't see that distortion. It's brilliant. So a lot of effort has gone into making these instruments really effective in all sorts of lighting conditions. Now, the last one on this theme is solely related to very early cars like my own. And that's about anti-dazzle and anti-reflection ideas that were incorporated into the 3 small instruments. Now, on this one, the camera light is actually showing how good they are. You'll note I'm shining the camera at these instruments at an angle, and it's got a really bright light on it, and yet you can still see the instruments relatively clearly. The level of reflection is very low. If I move around in front of them, yeah, if I get that right in the middle, then it reflects. Anything other than absolutely square on, you can read all of these instruments. Now, if you do that to a later car, they're not quite as good. Why is that? Because on very early cars like mine, the glass perspex is actually grained. Now, this is going to be almost impossible for me to film, but it is not smooth. If you run your fingernail across it, it's quite rough. It's not frosted because obviously they are clear, but it has a pimply texture. And that is to cut down reflections. Now, it has to be said, in exactly the wrong light conditions, they can look a little dusty. I'm going to try and simulate it. That's about as close as I can get. So the black backgrounds are not really very black in that photo. As soon as you move to any other position, everything gets good again. But other than that, it's a really, really effective system. And I know we've got quite a few pilots who are subscribers to the show. I think, but don't know, a lot of instruments in airplane cockpits have this sort of idea with a very slightly textured, slightly frosted effect on the glass, just to cut down on reflections. Later cars have a smooth glass. I think it's partly cost down and partly people saying, oh, my glass is a bit funny. Why is it not smooth? And so they just moved away from it as nobody notices anyway, so why should we bother? And these instruments don't really suffer from the little hairline scratches that you get from cleaning them because of that frosted finish. They're a bit smudged up now because I've been mauling them. Whereas the later ones, which do look better, I think, with the crystal clear finishes, the clock particularly looks really nice behind a really clean, clear piece of perspex. The later ones don't have this. But they do tend to suffer from scuff marks from people cleaning them because they are very reflective. You can see every little smudge, you can see every bit of dust. So people wipe them, and in wiping them, they scour them, and it's quite soft. So yeah, very early cars have a frosted finish on the instrument glass for the middle instruments. So a few little secrets and interesting facts about instruments and the dashboard in our beautiful, beautiful X100s. Just while we're on this shot, I have had a few questions about who's that little fella in the back? That is Growler, the teddy bear. And yes, he does live there. Yes, he always wears his seatbelt. No, he's not merchandise. You can't have him. And no, I don't have children either. Yeah, don't really care. So, that's it for today, folks. Hope you're having a good one. Now that Purdy's back in the garage, we can get back to some more secrets of the XK8, some fixes, some mods, some tweaks. Got a few little maintenance things to do as well. So looking forward to your company over the next few months. See you soon. Bye.